Hi everyone, welcome to week 5, the last week of class. It's kind of crazy how fast this class has gone by. I just finished grading your guys' discussions from week 4, and I am right now in the process of grading all of your cultural papers, which are super interesting so far. I know I had some questions kind of come up while you guys were working on those papers. Hopefully I was able to kind of answer some of those questions. I am very flexible in how you guys structure the papers. I believe that because it is a reflection paper, I want you guys to write it in a way that is most useful for you. And so I will not be strict in grading that aspect of it. As long as you guys, hit those specific rubric points, I'm okay with that. That's kind of my style as I grade. And the same kind of goes for your final papers. And I will talk about that a little bit later in this video. But I want to kind of touch on some popular points that came up while I was reading your guys' discussions from last week as we continued talking about cognitive functioning and processing. One of the topics that I think popped up the most amongst you guys is just the concept of trauma and how it really impacts students' ability to learn. A lot of you guys actually shared your own experiences with trauma, and I just want to thank you guys so much for being so open with those experiences and being so vulnerable and sharing those with the group. I think we all were able to really learn a lot from hearing your guys' examples. So I really appreciate you guys sharing that. A lot of you have been through trauma, and that was very obvious, looking through your guys' discussion posts. Kind of stuff that came up a lot was just how trauma is so prevalent in the schools, how about a half to 2/3 of students have experienced trauma, and it's kind of something that's not really closely paid attention to in the schools. And that's really alarming because it really does impact how students learn material. And oftentimes students can be easily triggered by cues, which cause them to relive their traumatic experiences. And it's just so important for us as educators when we see students kind of engaging in behaviors that are not meeting our expectations to find out what's really going on in their lives, because we know that trauma really can impact how they process information. It can impact their attention and their ability to be focused in class, their ability to complete tasks. So it's really important for us to dig deep and see what's really going on with the students and figure out how we can best address the root of the problem, not just kind of those surface behaviors. Another point that came up pretty frequently was it seemed like you guys were very interested in adolescence and the risky behavior that happens during adolescence. And we learned that, a lot of times adolescents will, not really think about the long-term effects of their actions. And a lot of times they act very impulsively, and it's, because of their brain and how their brain is still developing. They are much more focused on kind of the rewards that happens rather than kind of the long-term effects of the choices that they make. And so we need to think about that when we look at like the juvenile system. And it's been really interesting because research has shown that actually in the past years they've increased punishment and incarcerated some adolescents as if they were adults and kind of treated them like adults. Because of the severity of their crimes. However, we see that approach actually isn't very effective, and research shows that a lot of times those adolescents will repeat their offenses when they are punished in that way. So I think that gives us good information to those of us who are working with adolescents in the schools, just figuring out kind of how we want to teach students to be able to kind of think about their behavior, and really we want to help rehabilitate them rather than have them engage in these really serious punishments that we often give to adults. Kind of the last point that was brought up a lot was the concept of mirror neurons, which I remember learning about that for the first time and thinking like, whoa, this is such a crazy concept. And so a lot of you guys had the same initial reaction, and how it's just so impressive how mirror neurons really give us the ability to watch someone. And then in our brain, it's like we're doing it ourselves. And this gives us a lot of information about how we want to teach students in the classroom, and how it's really important to not just kind of talk at the students, but also have them really experience the teaching, and helping them learn through demonstration and action instead of just hearing things verbally. It also tells us how, because it impacts emotion and it impacts empathy, it really, really is important for students as they're learning social skills going through school. So those were kind of the three main points that came up the most frequently amongst you guys. So I just kind of wanted to bring those up. This upcoming week and this last week, we're going to be focusing on one of my favorite topics, which is motivation. And I've noticed in the past this has been everyone's favorite topic. I think just because we all can relate to this ourselves, and then also in our classrooms, motivation is key for learning. So it's focusing on motivation in classroom climate. So this week, you guys are basically going to, it's a very short lesson. You're going to watch the lesson, and then you want to post your initial discussion post Thursday by midnight. And then you also want to make sure you respond to a peer Sunday by midnight. And then you also want to take, you only have one quiz this week, so make sure you take that quiz Sunday by midnight. You will also have your final paper, which